Somewhere right now, someone is watching a video about the one habit that changed everything. A cold plunge, a 5 a.m. wake-up call, a morning routine with 7 steps and a soundtrack. You've watched those videos too. Maybe you tried one. For a week, maybe 2. You bought the notebook. You set the alarm. You told a friend, half as a promise to yourself. Then life happened. The routine faded. No dramatic failure, just a slow drift back to where you started. Here's what nobody puts in the thumbnail. The habits that actually change your life are not exciting. They don't trend. They don't make you feel like a main character. They're small, repetitive, the kind of thing you could do for years and never once feel proud of in the moment. That's exactly why most people skip them. They're chasing a feeling. These habits don't give you one. They give you a result, quietly, long after the feeling would have worn off anyway. If you're honest, you already know the pattern. You keep looking for the next system, the next framework, the next book that finally unlocks discipline for good. You collect ideas the way other people collect clutter, and underneath the searching is a quiet exhaustion, the sense that you've tried hard, read a lot, listened to 100 people talk about mindset, and you're still standing roughly where you were a year ago. 3 symptoms, and you'll recognize at least one. Chasing new information instead of repeating old, unglamorous actions. Mental fatigue that has nothing to do with effort and everything to do with how many small decisions you're making all day. Decisions your habits should be making for you. And falling back into the same patterns by 9 p.m., no matter how good your intentions were at 7 a.m. None of that means you're broken. It means your habits have been working against you, quietly. The same way the ones we're about to cover are going to start working for you. Here's the promise, and it's a small one on purpose. You don't need 10 new personality traits. You need 10 small, boring actions, repeated on purpose, until they stop being things you do and start being who you are. Apply 1, and something in your week shifts. Apply all 10, and in 30 days you won't fully recognize the version of you that pressed play. Every chapter follows the same shape, on purpose. Repetition is the mechanism. We name the habit. We name the ache underneath it, the one you've felt but never quite said out loud. We name the truth. We give you the steps, small enough that skipping them takes more effort than doing them. And we close with one line to carry with you. No hype, no countdown music. Just 10 habits, one at a time, starting with the first 5 minutes of your day. The 5 minutes almost everyone gives away for free. One more thing before we start, because it'll change how you listen to everything that follows. You're about to hear steps that sound too small to matter. A glass of water, 1 sentence, a 5-minute timer. Your instinct, trained by years of go big or go home content, will be to dismiss them. Resist that instinct. These habits weren't picked because they're impressive. They were picked because they're repeatable. And repeatable, over months instead of days, beats impressive almost every time. There's a reason this list is called boring, and it's not a joke at the title's expense. Boring is the point. Boring is what a habit feels like once the excitement wears off, and it's just quietly part of your day. If a habit still feels thrilling after 30 days, it probably hasn't become a habit yet. It's still a phase. The 10 habits ahead are built to survive the phase where the thrill disappears, because that's exactly the point where most people quit, and exactly the point where these are designed to keep working. One last thing before we begin. You don't need to listen to this once and remember everything. Come back to it in a month. Come back to it after you've tried habit 3 and it didn't click, to hear it again with fresh ears. This isn't a video meant to be consumed once and filed away. It's meant to be lived with, the same way the habits themselves are meant to be lived with, slowly, repeatedly, until the words stop sounding like instructions and start sounding like something you already knew. One short note, and then we begin. You've just heard where we're going. Before Chapter 1, here's how the next hour will run. We don't run ad breaks inside these recordings. Audiobook Rise isn't in the YouTube partner program, so nothing gets inserted in the middle of a chapter. No commercial cutting across an idea while you're still holding it. From here to the final line, it's the narration and you. That's not free to do. Every recording takes hours of writing, narration, and editing, and we publish 2 to 3 of them a week. So if this channel has given you something worth keeping, you can support the work on Ko-fi. That's Ko-Fi at kofi.com/audiobookrise. The link is in the description below. Any amount helps, none is expected. And if you'd rather just listen, then listen. That's what this was built for. Thank you for your time. It's the one thing you can't get back. Now, settle in. Chapter 1. Make your bed. Before you check your phone, before your feet hit the floor, your day has already been decided. Not by you, by whoever sent the first notification. Sit with that for a second. Whoever earns your first 3 conscious minutes owns the tone of your entire day. Right now, that's probably not you. It's an app built by a team whose only job is making sure your attention belongs to them first. You know this pattern already. You wake up. Before your eyes fully adjust, before a single thought of your own forms, your thumb is already moving toward the phone. A headline, a message. Someone else's opinion, someone else's crisis, someone else's highlight reel, arriving before you've decided anything about your own day. You're reacting to the world before you've prepared for it. The bed stays unmade. Why bother? You're already behind on a day you didn't choose the terms of. You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You've outsourced the first decision of your day to a system that only cares that you keep opening the app. That's not a character flaw. That's a structural problem. And structural problems get fixed structurally. Not by trying harder tomorrow, but by changing what's physically within reach. Think about how many mornings this has already happened without you noticing it happening. It's not one bad morning. It's hundreds of them, stacked quietly on top of each other, each one setting the tone for a day you didn't fully choose. Multiply that by a year, and you get a version of your life shaped less by your own intentions and more by whichever app happened to buzz first. A man named Danny, a warehouse supervisor from Ohio, the kind of guy who'd tell you himself he's not really a self-help person, started this habit almost by accident. His phone died overnight for a week straight because he forgot to plug it in near the bed. He made his bed out of boredom, waiting for it to charge in the other room. By day 5, he noticed something odd. He wasn't dreading his mornings anymore. Nothing else had changed, just the order of 2 small actions. You don't need motivation for this. You need a rule that removes the decision. Not, I'll make my bed if I have time. The bed gets made. Every day. No debate. Discipline isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a rule you follow whether the feeling shows up or not. And eventually, the rule becomes the feeling. 5 steps. 1. Leave your phone charging outside the bedroom tonight. Not the nightstand. Another room. If it's not within reach, it can't be the first thing your hand finds. 2. The moment your feet hit the floor, make the bed. Don't think about it. Don't negotiate. 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds, even on your worst morning. 3. While you're doing it, name one thing you intend to finish today. Just one. Out loud or in your head. This turns a chore into your first real decision of the day. 4. If you catch yourself reaching for the phone before the bed is done, stop. Walk back, finish first. The habit only works if the order never bends. 5. Give it 7 straight days before you judge anything. 1 day proves nothing. 7 starts to prove something. There's a common failure point worth naming, so you can catch it early. People do this for 3 or 4 days, feel nothing dramatic, and quietly decide it's not working. That's exactly the point where the 7-day rule matters most. Habits don't feel like anything at day 3. They feel like something around day 7, and they feel like identity around day 30. Judging on day 3 is like checking if a plant grew an hour after you watered it. This was never about tidiness. It's about identity. Make your bed before you check your phone, and you become someone who acts before they react. Not controlled by the world the second you wake up. In control of the morning before the world gets a vote, ask yourself something honest. If the first 3 minutes already belong to everyone but you, what does that say about the other 23 hours? Go make your bed right now if you haven't, even mid-afternoon while you're listening. Prove the rule works, regardless of the clock. Own the first 3 minutes, and you stop needing permission for the rest. That mindset is exactly what the next habit is built on. There's a version of this that goes further, if you want it. Some people set their phone to grayscale overnight. So even the first glance, whenever it finally happens, is visually boring instead of visually rewarding. It sounds small. It isn't. Color is part of what pulls you in before you've even opened the app. Remove the color, and some of the pull goes with it. If you share a bedroom, this gets easier, not harder. Tell the other person what you're doing. Ask them to leave their phone outside too, even for the first 10 minutes. Habits protected by one person alone tend to erode faster than habits two people are quietly holding each other to. Chapter 2. Write down one sentence before you sleep. You don't remember most of your progress. Not because it didn't happen, because you never wrote it down. That explains something that frustrates a lot of hard-working people. The feeling that you're putting in effort but going nowhere. You are going somewhere. You just have no record of it, so your own mind refuses to believe it. Your brain is wired for old survival reasons to remember threats and mistakes far more vividly than quiet wins. So at the end of a long day, when you lie down and think back, what surfaces first is the email you didn't send, the workout you skipped, the moment you snapped at someone. The 3 small things that went right get buried instantly under the one that went wrong. Do that for a year, and you'll swear you haven't grown at all, even though you clearly have. Progress that isn't recorded doesn't disappear. It becomes invisible to the person who needs to see it most. You. Confidence isn't built by trying to feel confident. It's built by collecting evidence. And evidence has to be written down, because memory alone will lie to you. Here's a way to picture it. Imagine trying to prove you'd gotten stronger at the gym with no record of your lifts. No app, no notebook, nothing. You'd have to rely purely on how heavy the bar feels today, compared to some fuzzy memory of how it felt months ago. That's an impossible comparison to make accurately, and it's exactly the comparison most people are making about their entire personal growth, every single night, with nothing written down to check it against. Here's how you build the record. 1. Keep a small notebook by your bed, not your phone, a separate space, used for this and only this. 2. Before the light goes off, write one sentence, not a journal entry. One sentence. What went slightly better today than it could have. 3. It doesn't need to be impressive. I said no to something that wasn't worth my time counts. I stayed calm when I usually would have snapped. Counts more than most. 4. If you truly can't think of anything, write the smallest true thing you can find. I showed up. On hard days, that sentence matters more than any other. 5. Once a week, read back through the last 7 sentences before writing the 8th. This is where the shift actually happens. You start seeing, in your own handwriting, a pattern of someone who keeps showing up. A quick note on what happens if you miss a night, because you will, eventually. Don't try to catch up by writing 3 sentences the next night. That turns the habit into a chore with a debt attached. Just write one sentence, for that day only, and let the missed night stay missed. The record doesn't need to be unbroken to be useful. It just needs to be mostly true. Think about how differently a bad week feels with 30 prior sentences to weigh it against, instead of nothing. Without the record, one rough week can feel like proof that nothing you've done has mattered. With it, that same week becomes exactly what it is, one entry in a longer pattern, still pointing the right direction. When you do this, you become someone whose confidence is built on documented reality, not borrowed motivation that evaporates by Wednesday. Not hoping you're making progress, knowing it, because you wrote it down. Here's the deeper shift. People who track small wins start expecting them. People who expect small wins start noticing more of them. You're not just recording your day at night. You're training your attention all day to look for what's working. Tonight, before you sleep, write the sentence. Just one. Let it be the last thing you do. Once you can see your own progress in writing, the next habit gets easier, because it asks you to protect time for yourself, the way you'd protect anything you already know has value. This habit has a quiet side effect most people don't expect. After a month of sentences, you start noticing your wins in real time, not just at night. You'll be in the middle of your day, handle something well, and catch yourself thinking, that's tonight's sentence. The noticing starts happening earlier and earlier. Eventually it happens as the good moment is unfolding, not hours later while you're trying to remember it. Chapter 3. Reclaim 10 ordinary minutes a day. You don't need a vacation to feel present again. You need 10 unscheduled minutes. And the discipline to leave them alone. Sounds too simple to matter. In practice, it matters more than almost anything else on this list. Look honestly at your in-between moments. The walk to your car, the wait for coffee, the first bites of lunch. Your phone is there for nearly all of it. You've made it nearly impossible to be bored for 30 seconds. And in doing so, nearly impossible to actually think. Every idle second gets filled with a feed. Your brain never gets the quiet it needs to process anything. Count how many idle moments you've filled with a screen just today, before this video. The walk from the parking lot, the wait for the microwave, the line at the pharmacy. None of these moments individually feel like much. Stacked across a week, they add up to hours of attention that never once belonged fully to you, or to anything at all. There was a man, call him Ray, because his story is common enough the name doesn't matter, who ate lunch at his desk every day, scrolling with one hand. He couldn't tell you what he'd eaten most days, or what he'd read while reading it. It blurred together. When he started eating away from his desk, phone in a drawer, 15 minutes at a time, he said the strangest part wasn't that food tasted better. It was realizing how loud his own mind had become the moment nothing else was competing for it. Presence isn't a personality trait. It's a decision about where your attention goes in ordinary moments. Most people never make that decision, so it gets made for them, by whichever app is easiest to open. It's worth naming why this feels harder than it sounds. Boredom doesn't feel neutral to most people. It feels a little like anxiety. Restless, itchy, like something needs fixing right now. That's why the phone comes out so fast in idle moments. It's not really about the content. It's about killing that itchy feeling as fast as possible. The 10 minutes only work if you let the feeling exist without rushing to smooth it over. It usually softens on its own within a few minutes if you give it the chance. 5 steps. 1. Pick one ordinary activity you already do daily. A walk, a meal, a commute. Just one to start. 2. During it, leave your phone somewhere you can't reach without standing up and walking to another spot. 3. If it's a walk, don't listen to anything, not even a podcast. If it's a meal, don't watch anything. Let the activity be the only thing happening. 4. When your mind reaches for a distraction, and it will, notice it. Let it pass instead of acting on it. 5. Do this once a day for 1 week. Notice by day 7 whether the rest of your day feels different. Pick your activity carefully, because not all of them work equally well. A commute in heavy traffic might not be the right choice to start with. Too much stress already built in. A walk, a shower, or a meal tend to work best, because they're low stakes enough that the quiet has room to actually land, instead of getting drowned out by everything else demanding your attention. Protect 10 ordinary minutes, and you become someone who doesn't need constant stimulation to feel okay. Not distracted by default. Present on purpose, at least once a day. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were bored on purpose, with nothing to fix it? What did you notice once the boredom had nowhere left to hide? Choose your 10 minutes today. 1 walk, 1 meal, 1 commute. Undistracted, starting the next time it comes up. Sitting comfortably with silence prepares you for the next habit, which asks you to sit with something harder, the discomfort of occasionally disappointing people you care about. One more thing worth knowing before you try this. The first 2 or 3 days are usually the hardest, not the easiest. Your hand will reach for the phone out of pure habit, before your brain even registers what it's doing. That's normal. It's not a sign the habit is failing. It's a sign the old wiring is still there, doing what old wiring does. By day 5 or 6, most people notice the reach happens less and lasts less time when it does happen. Chapter 4. Say no before you say yes. Every time you say yes out of guilt instead of desire, you're paying for it with time you'll never get back, and calling it kindness so it doesn't sting. It's not kindness. It's avoidance wearing kindness as a disguise. Notice how quickly this pattern repeats across a single week. A coworker asks for help on a project that isn't yours. A relative asks for a favor that eats your one free evening. A friend asks you to just hop on a quick call that turns into 90 minutes. None of these requests are unreasonable on their own. The problem isn't any single yes. It's the total weight of a week, built entirely from other people's priorities, with none of your own ever making it onto the list. Someone asks for your time, a favor, an extra meeting, a commitment you don't have room for, and your mouth says yes before your mind finishes processing the request. You agree because no feels rude or selfish or like it might damage the relationship. So you say yes, resent it privately later, and the resentment leaks out sideways, doing more damage than an honest no ever would have. You tell yourself you're being generous, being the reliable one. Often, underneath that, you're just avoiding a few uncomfortable seconds of watching someone's face fall. A boundary is not rejection. A boundary is information. It tells people what you actually have to give, so whatever you give them is real instead of resentful. People don't need your automatic yes. They need your honest attention when you can actually give it, and you can't if you're overcommitted and quietly seething underneath a polite smile. Think about the last time someone said yes to you out of guilt rather than desire. You could probably feel it, even if you couldn't name it at the time. A flatness in their attention, a sense they were somewhere else. That's what your own guilty yeses look like from the outside. Not generous, just distracted, half present, quietly resentful in a way that leaks out no matter how hard you try to hide it. A nurse named Priya used to say yes to every shift swap her co-workers asked for, even on her days off. She wasn't proud of it. She was just afraid of being seen as difficult. It took a burnout scare, a full week where she couldn't get out of bed, before she started using a single sentence instead. I can't take this one, but thank you for asking. Nothing dramatic happened. People kept asking her to cover shifts. She just started saying no to most of them, and yes only to the ones she meant. Here's how you build the pause. 1. Next time someone asks something of you, don't answer immediately. Say, "Let me check and get back to you." Every time. Even for small requests, because small requests are exactly how the old pattern sneaks back in. 2. In that pause, even 30 seconds, ask yourself one question. Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid of how the no will land? 3. If the honest answer is fear, use this sentence. I can't take this on right now, but thank you for thinking of me. Simple, warm. No long explanation attached. 4. Notice the urge to justify your no with an excuse. Resist it. A boundary doesn't need a defense. It needs one clear sentence. 5. Track how many times you use the pause this week. The goal isn't saying no to everything. It's making sure every yes is intentional. This works in professional settings too, not just personal ones. A simple, "Let me check my calendar and follow up," does the exact same job in an email as, "Let me check and get back to you" does in person. Nobody finds either sentence strange. People say versions of it constantly. The only difference is whether you actually use the pause it buys you, or just fill it with the same automatic yes a few minutes later. When you do this, you become someone whose yes actually means something, because it's no longer a reflex, not agreeing to avoid conflict, answering to protect the weight of your own word. This habit feels worse before it feels better. The first few pauses can feel awkward. even rude, like you're making someone wait for something that should be simple. That discomfort fades fast. Most requests can wait 30 seconds. The relationships that can't tolerate even that pause were probably relying on your automatic yes more than they were relying on you. The next time someone asks for something today, pause. Even if you end up saying yes, make sure it's a decision, not a reflex that made itself. Worth naming one more thing. This isn't about becoming someone who says no to everything. Plenty of people swing too far the other way and turn every request into a negotiation. That's not the goal either. The goal is simple. The pause. Just the pause. What you decide after the pause is up to you, and most of the time, the answer will still be yes. It'll just be a yes you actually meant. Pause for a moment, right where you are. One slow breath in through your nose. Hold for 3. Let it go slowly. 4 habits in, none of them dramatic. None of them trending anywhere. That's not a flaw in this list. That's the entire point of it. Ask yourself one question and actually answer it. What's one thing you've already improved today, however small? Hold that answer. Don't dismiss it because it feels too minor to count. Small and real beats big and imaginary. Every time. One more breath. Second half starts now. Notice, before we continue, that nothing about the last 30 minutes required you to be a different person than you already are. That's worth remembering, as the next 4 habits ask a little more of you. Chapter 5. Remove one small friction today. You don't lose control of your day in one big moment. You lose it in 100 tiny ones. And you can take it back the same way. Control was never one dramatic decision, made once and locked in. It's a pile of small decisions, stacked either for you or against you. Most people picture self-control as a single tense moment, gritting your teeth against temptation at the exact instant it appears. That moment is real, but it's rare. Far more often, control is decided long before the tempting moment ever arrives, by whatever you set up the night or the morning before. Win the setup, and the tense moment barely has to happen at all. Think about a typical morning. The first thing you reach for, before your brain has fully woken up, is probably your phone. And the first thing you see is a wall of notifications demanding a reaction before you've had a single original thought. Or think about a typical afternoon. Your energy dips, and you reach for a 4th coffee, not because your body needs it, but because it's there, and reaching for it takes 0 effort. None of these feel like real choices in the moment. They feel automatic. And that's the problem. Automatic behavior driven by convenience, hour after hour, adds up to a day that feels like something that happened to you. You don't need more willpower. You need less friction pulling you toward what you don't want, and more friction pulling you toward what you do. Willpower is limited. It runs out by afternoon. Environment design isn't limited the same way. Notice how differently these 2 habits feel to build. Willpower feels like gritting your teeth through the same fight every single day, forever. Friction removal feels like winning the fight once, on a Tuesday afternoon, and then never having to fight it again. One is exhausting by design. The other gets easier the longer you keep it up. 5 steps. 1. Pick one small point of friction working against you today. Notifications interrupting your focus, or reaching for caffeine out of boredom. 2. If it's notifications, turn off push alerts for one app right now. Just one. One is sustainable. All of them is a promise you'll break by Thursday. 3. If it's the coffee, or any reach because it's their habit, drink a full glass of water first. Every time. This adds a 10-second pause that's often enough to break the automatic reach. 4. Notice how it feels the first time the old urge shows up and you don't give in. That discomfort isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign the old pattern is losing its grip. 5. Add one more removal next week. Just one. Build slowly. You're not overhauling your life in a day. You're removing friction, one piece at a time, permanently. If you're not sure which friction point to start with, pick the one that annoys you the most, not the one that seems the most important. Annoyance is a good compass here. The thing that irritates you daily is usually the thing draining the most attention, even if it looks small from the outside. Do this consistently, and you become someone who shapes their environment instead of being shaped by it. Not more discipline, less resistance to push against in the first place. It helps to think of friction as something you move, not just remove. The same energy that turns off a notification can make a good habit easier to reach. Laying out gym clothes the night before, keeping a book on the pillow instead of the charger, water on the counter instead of soda in the fridge. Ask yourself, what's one small automatic reach in your day you've never once questioned? Turn off the one notification. Drink the one glass of water. Do it today, before the urge to skip it talks you out of it. Removing friction sets up the next habit almost perfectly, because the biggest source of friction in most lives isn't outside them. It's the task they've been avoiding. A small warning worth hearing now. The temptation, once this starts working, is to remove 5 things at once. Resist it. Remove one, let it hold for a week, then add the next. People who try to redesign their whole environment in a weekend usually abandon all of it by the following Friday. People who remove one small thing at a time tend to still be doing it a year later. Chapter 6. Do the task you're avoiding for 5 minutes. You're not avoiding the task, you're avoiding the version of yourself who has to start it imperfectly. Most people never say that part out loud because it's uncomfortable to admit. There's a specific kind of quiet self-deception at play here worth naming. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time, or waiting until you have more energy. Neither of those is usually true. What you're actually waiting for is a guarantee that starting will go well, and that guarantee never arrives, for anyone, on any task, ever. The 5-minute rule works precisely because it doesn't ask for the guarantee, it only asks for 5 minutes. There's something on your list right now, you already know exactly what it is, that's been sitting there for days, maybe weeks. Every day you don't do it, it gets a little heavier, a little more loaded with meaning it never should have carried. It's not that hard. It's not even that long once you're inside it. But somewhere along the way it stopped being a task and became a referendum on whether you're the kind of person who follows through. That's too much pressure for one item on a list. It's exactly why you keep walking past it. Notice what actually happens every time you walk past it. It's not neutral. Each time costs you something small, a flicker of guilt, a tiny hit to how capable you feel that day. None of it is dramatic on its own. Stacked over weeks, it quietly wears down the same confidence the notebook in Chapter 2 is trying to build back up. Motivation doesn't arrive before action. It arrives after, almost every time. You don't wait to feel ready. You start, badly if necessary, and readiness catches up. This runs against almost everything self-help content teaches, which is exactly why it's worth repeating. Most advice tells you to find your motivation first, then act on it. In practice, action comes first almost every time, and motivation shows up a few minutes later, once momentum has already started carrying you. Waiting for the feeling to arrive before you move is waiting for a bus that only shows up after you've started walking. 5 steps. 1. Name the task specifically. Not, I should sort my finances. The actual task. Open the banking app and look at last month's spending. 2. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Not an hour. Not until it's done. 5 minutes. 3. Start the moment the timer begins, doing the worst, roughest version of the task. You're not trying to finish, you're trying to break the seal. 4. When the timer ends, you're allowed to stop. Most days you won't want to. Momentum will already have taken over. But the deal was 5 minutes, and it has to be honored, or you'll stop trusting the timer. 5. Repeat with the same task tomorrow if it isn't finished. 5 honest minutes beats 0 minutes wrapped in guilt. If the task is genuinely large, something that'll take weeks, not days, 5 minutes a day still works. It just changes what finished means. You're not aiming to finish the whole thing in 5-minute chunks. You're aiming to never let 3 days pass without touching it, which is usually enough to keep something moving that would otherwise stall out completely. There's a reason 5 minutes works better than an hour. An hour feels like a real commitment, something to schedule and defend. 5 minutes doesn't feel like anything, which is exactly why your resistance doesn't fight back. You're not tricking yourself. You're giving the task a door small enough that walking through it doesn't require an argument first. Do this, and you become someone who starts before they feel ready, which, over time, is basically the definition of discipline. Not waiting to feel capable. Becoming capable by starting. Ask yourself, what's the task you've been carrying unfinished, and what would it cost you to give it 5 honest minutes today? Set the timer now if you can. 5 minutes. Worst version allowed. Go. Start the hard thing on command, and you're ready for a shift that changes how you measure the whole day. Not by what you finished, by who you became trying. A software developer named Wes used this on a project proposal he'd been dreading for 3 weeks. 5 minutes a day, worst draft possible, no editing allowed during the timer. He said the proposal was still bad by day 3, but it existed, which it hadn't for 3 weeks straight. By day 9 it was done, and none of the individual 5-minute sessions had felt like work at all. Chapter 7. Ask, what did I improve? Instead of, what did I achieve? Achievement asks what you finished. Improvement asks who you became. Only one of those questions builds a life you can actually sustain. This distinction sounds subtle at first, almost like a technicality. It isn't. Achievement is fundamentally about output, things that exist outside you, that other people can see and verify. Improvement is about the person doing the producing. You can fake achievement for a while, coast on old momentum, hit numbers that don't reflect real growth underneath. You can't really fake improvement. Not to yourself, not for long. It either happened or it didn't, and you're the only witness who was there for all of it. You end most days running a mental scoreboard. What got crossed off? What got sent? What got closed? Long list, you feel like you won. Short list, even if you handled something genuinely hard, you feel like you lost. The scoreboard doesn't care about growth. It doesn't care that you handled a difficult conversation with more patience than you had 6 months ago. It only counts what's visible and finished. And most of real growth is neither. This is worth sitting with for a second, because it explains a very specific kind of frustration. The days you grew the most emotionally are often the exact days your task list looks the worst. A hard conversation you finally had, a boundary you finally held. None of it shows up as a crossed-off box, so the scoreboard quietly tells you the day was a failure, even on the days you did the most real work of all. A life measured only by achievement always feels unfinished, because there's always another achievement waiting. A life measured by improvement can feel complete at the end of any single day, because improvement only requires that today's version of you was slightly better than yesterday's. 5 steps. 1. At the end of the day, before checking your task list, ask the improvement question first. What did I do slightly better today than I would have a month ago? 2. Answer specifically, not, I did okay, something concrete. I responded instead of reacting when my coworker pushed back. 3. Only after answering that, look at the task list. Let achievement come second. 4. On days the list is short, let the improvement answer carry the weight. It's allowed to be enough on its own. 5. Once a week, compare your improvement answers to a month ago. This is where you'll see change you'd otherwise miss entirely, because it happened too gradually to notice day to day. If you keep the sentence notebook from Chapter 2, this question fits right alongside it. Some nights the improvement answer and the sentence will be the same thing. Other nights they'll be different. Either way, writing both takes less than a minute total and gives you 2 separate angles on the same underlying pattern. One focused on what happened, the other on who you were while it happened. This question also does something quieter and just as important. It makes hard seasons survivable. There are stretches where the task list simply can't be finished. A hard month, an illness, a family emergency. Achievement has nothing kind to say to you during those stretches. Improvement still does. It can still find something true to point to, even on a day where nothing on the list got touched. Do this, and you become someone whose worth doesn't rise and fall with a to-do list, not chasing a scoreboard that resets to 0 every morning. Building a version of yourself that carries forward regardless of the score. There's a longer-term payoff, too. People who measure by achievement tend to burn out, because achievement always demands a bigger next one. People who measure by improvement rarely burn out the same way. Improvement doesn't ask for more, just slightly better than yesterday. A bar you can clear for decades. Ask yourself tonight, if you couldn't count anything you finished today, what would you still be proud of? Ask the improvement question before you sleep tonight. Just once. Notice what it feels like to answer it. Measuring growth this way makes the final habit almost effortless. It removes the thing most people sacrifice first when life gets busy: rest. Try this for 1 week before deciding whether it's worth keeping. Most people notice the shift faster than they expect. Usually by day 4 or 5, the improvement question starts arriving on its own, before you even reach for the notebook. That's the sign it's taking hold. Not that you remember to ask it, that you can't quite stop asking it. Chapter 8. Go to bed at the same time. Even on weekends, you can't outwork a broken sleep schedule. You can only postpone the bill. It always arrives, with interest. This is the habit most people skip, because it feels like the least ambitious item on the list. It's actually the foundation the other 9 sit on. Put the other 9 habits on top of a broken sleep schedule, and watch how fast they crumble. The pause before saying yes gets skipped, because you're too tired to hold it. The 5-minute timer gets ignored, because everything already feels too heavy. None of the other 9 habits are actually broken when this happens. They're just standing on ground that isn't stable enough to hold them. You treat sleep like the flexible part of your schedule, the thing pushed back for 1 more episode, 1 more scroll. On weekends, the bedtime disappears entirely because rules feel unnecessary when there's nowhere to be in the morning. Then Monday arrives, and you wonder why the discipline you had all week suddenly feels out of reach. It's not a mystery. Your body has no idea what time it's supposed to run on anymore. Every habit on this list gets harder to execute when you're running on borrowed energy. Think back to the last time you tried to hold a new habit while running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. It probably didn't go well, and it probably wasn't really about the habit itself. Willpower, patience, the ability to pause before reacting, all of it draws from the same tank, and sleep is what refills that tank overnight. Skip the refill, and every other habit on this list starts fighting an uphill battle it didn't need to fight. Discipline isn't only a fixed trait you're born with, it's partly a biological resource, and sleep is where it gets rebuilt. You can't think your way past a body that hasn't recovered. This is the habit that quietly makes every other habit on this list either easier or harder, depending on how you treat it. Skip it, and the willpower needed for Chapter 4's pause or Chapter 6's 5-minute timer simply isn't there when you need it. Protect it, and those same habits start to feel less like effort and more like default behavior, because your brain finally has the resources to run them without a fight. A firefighter named Marcus figured this out the hard way, after 2 years of rotating shifts left him snapping at his kids over nothing. His fix wasn't complicated: a fixed bedtime on his days off, held within 30 minutes of his shift schedule, no exceptions for Saturday. He said the first 2 weeks felt like giving something up. By week 4, he said it felt like the only thing keeping the rest of his habits standing. 5 steps. 1. Pick one bedtime, not a window, one specific time. 2. Set an alarm 30 minutes before it, not to wake you, to warn you. When it goes off, start winding down. Lights lower, screens away, phone charging outside the room. 3. Hold the same bedtime on weekends, within 30 minutes either way. This is the step almost everyone skips, and it's why so many consistent sleep schedules quietly fail every week. 4. If you're not tired yet, go through the wind down anyway. The behavior trains the body, even before the tiredness catches up. 5. Give it 2 full weeks before judging. Sleep debt doesn't clear in one good night. It clears with a pattern. If your schedule genuinely varies week to week, shift work, travel, a newborn at home, the exact bedtime matters less than the consistency of the wind-down routine around it. Same 30-minute warning, same lights-down ritual, same phone out-of-reach rule. The anchor doesn't have to be a clock. It can be a sequence, repeated in the same order, night after night, regardless of what time it starts. One more thing worth saying plainly. This habit will feel, at first, like it costs you something. Late nights often feel like the only stretch of the day that belongs entirely to you. Giving that up, even for sleep, can feel like a small loss. What usually happens instead, once the 2 weeks pass, is that every waking hour sharpens enough to more than make up for it. Protect this, and you become someone who treats their own energy as worth defending, not staying up because you have the time, sleeping because you respect tomorrow. Ask yourself, what would change about the rest of this list if you actually gave your body the recovery it's been asking for? Pick your bedtime right now. Say it out loud. Start tonight. That's all 10 habits, across 8 chapters. None of them were exciting. That was never the goal. One last note on this one, because it matters more than it sounds like it should. Of all 10 habits on this list, this is the one people report making the biggest difference the fastest. Not the most dramatic difference, the fastest one. Give it 2 weeks, and most of the other 9 habits get noticeably easier to hold, simply because you're no longer running on empty while you're trying to hold them. You didn't come to this video for a new personality. You came looking for a shortcut. What you found instead was something more useful. 10 ordinary actions, repeated on purpose, until they stop being actions and start being who you are. Look back at the 8 chapters for a second. Not one of them asked you to buy anything, wake up before dawn, or become a different kind of person. Every single one asked for something you already had the capacity to do today, in the next 5 minutes, with nothing standing in the way except the decision to actually do it. Here's the identity underneath every habit on this list. You don't wait for motivation before you act. You act, and the motivation follows behind, the way it always has for anyone who's ever built something that actually lasted. You don't need all 10 starting tomorrow. That's not how lasting change works, and anyone promising an overnight transformation is selling you something. Pick one. Hold it 7 days, then 30. Let it become boring, because boring is what a habit feels like right before it becomes identity. Your checklist for the next 24 hours. 5 things, no more. 1. Charge your phone outside the bedroom tonight. 2. Write 1 sentence about today before you sleep. 3. Choose your 10 undistracted minutes for tomorrow and decide when. 4. Notice 1 moment tomorrow where you can pause before saying yes. 5. Pick your bedtime, right now, and set the alarm that protects it. 5 small actions. None will make a highlight reel. Repeated for 30 days, they'll change more about your life than any single dramatic decision could. Write them down somewhere you'll actually see tomorrow, not somewhere you'll forget the moment this video ends. Read that checklist back 1 more time before you move on. 5 items, not 50, not a complete life overhaul by tomorrow morning. 5 small, specific, doable things. And doable is the entire reason this list works when so many others quietly don't. You don't need everything to be perfect before you begin. You need to begin, today, with 1 habit that looks too small to matter yet. If you find yourself back here in 30 days, wondering whether any of this worked, don't ask whether you feel transformed. Transformation rarely feels like anything from the inside while it's happening. Ask instead whether the small things have gotten quieter, whether the bed gets made without a debate, whether the phone stays in the other room without a fight, whether the bedtime holds on a Saturday without you noticing you're holding it. That quiet is the whole point. There's one last thing worth saying, because it's easy to miss in a list this long. You don't need to be good at all 10 of these to consider this worth your time. Most people who stick with this list end up genuinely consistent with maybe 6 or 7 of the 10, and quietly imperfect at the rest, forever. That's not failure. That's what it actually looks like to build a real life around real habits, instead of a highlight reel around imaginary ones. 6 honest habits, held for years, will outperform 10 perfect ones held for a week, every single time. And if you're the kind of person who likes to know where you stand, here's a simple way to check in a month from now. Don't ask which habits you've mastered. Ask which ones you've stopped thinking about. The habits that have quietly become automatic are the ones you no longer have to remember. They just happen. That's not a small thing. That's the entire transformation this video was ever actually promising you, dressed up in the plainest possible clothes. If this found you at the right moment, let it keep finding you. Subscribe and come back for the next one. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you'll find a link in the description. Every bit helps keep this content ad-free and independent. Go make the bed, write the sentence, set the bedtime, start now.